played
Yeah, what about
was
for you? I got to hear this.
I'm pretty sure. Of course, I knew D&D, and it was part of the pop culture, and you'd see the ads in the comic books. I knew what it was.
Comic books were big for D&D, exactly.
Yeah, they'd have
Yep,
all the ads in
yep.
there. Yeah,
The big
the
red
little
dragon, ancient red
animation.
dragon up there, yeah.
Oh
Play
yeah,
Dungeons
yeah,
and Dragons. This is blown breath.
yep. Uh, D&D, and then they had the D&D cartoon and all that. And I was
Oh,
fascinated with the idea of role playing games, but
it's
I actually
hideous.
played like I went one day. I just out of the blue. I woke up one Saturday and I got like some paper and I drew out like kind of a board game that was kind of an RPG. It had like you got to get across the bridge and fight the goblins, and there's a dragon in the cave, and da da da. And I wanted to play it with somebody, and I don't know what got in it. I just drew this thing out and decided to make a game. I did that a few times. I remember one time later when I was in high school, I made up some rules for a wrestling role playing game, and
Nice.
I never watched wrestling, and a buddy of mine was like way big into WWF. It was WWF back then,
Oh, yeah.
and I would say, well, to give me some moves, and he would tell me, well, he was telling the suplex and this and that and the other, and I was assigning how hard it does and how much damage it did and all this, and I did some play testing with him. He was blown away by it, but anyway, uh, I didn't become a game designer, but so I was probably like 10 or 11, maybe 12, and I was like, I just woke up and made this game and took it over to my friends named Carrie. I was like, hey, play this game with me. And he played it like once or twice, and he's like, dude, we need to play Traveler. And I was like, what? And
Yeah.
so Traveler was an old, it was one of the very first role playing games. It was science fiction
Oh, I
based,
remember Traveler.
kind
Yeah.
of like
Oh, yeah.
kind of like hard sci-fi. Um,
It's still going today.
yeah. So anyway, um, he was like, and he didn't have any of the books, but he had been playing Traveler with some friends of his. So he's like, I'm going to DM you, or he didn't call it DM. I don't even know what he called it. He
Yeah.
says, I'm going to play you at Traveler. So he just made up the rules, and we played Traveler
Yeah.
like all weekend long. And by like the end of the weekend,
Nice.
I was like incredibly rich, and I was like building Death Stars and all this. We weren't playing by the rules, but it was so much fun.
That's
And
what it is, man.
I remember sitting at the table and like writing up all my wealth, and it was just crazy. I don't even know.
Yeah.
It was. I remember writing all this stuff out, and I have this many troopers, and I think he had like one of the books, but he didn't have like the GM book or something. I can't remember what the
Yeah.
deal was. But after that, I played Marvel superheroes. I played Top Secret and Star Frontiers.
Star
Uh,
Frontiers, yeah.
yeah, so I was playing role playing games, but my mom was one of those that was like, if you open up a D&D book, your head will explode with
Mm-hmm.
brimstone and demons.
Mm-hmm.
She believed that. So,
Yeah. She
and,
believed
and
Dan
it,
Rather, huh?
yeah, well, if people don't know that, like you and I grew up in the 80s, like there were people who were really worried about D&D. I mean,
Yeah.
they look back on it and
Well,
laugh
look at
now, but there
yeah.
are
I
people that,
mean, look
yeah,
at 2020 did there back when 2020 was on TV,
yeah,
and Dan Rather did that special about Dungeons and Dragons, and it was
yeah.
total bullshit. But
Well,
and
what
my
keep,
parents,
yeah,
and to go back what I was saying earlier, to go back on this now, to my parents sat me down on the couch and made me watch this,
yeah.
and that was the first time I ever said a curse word in front of my parents.
You're like,
And
this is
I said, I can't believe you. I can't believe that you believe this horse shit. And
right.
I literally said, and saying horse shit for the first time in front of your
They
parents.
were like, it's
I
true.
I had a
He's
bar of soap in
corrupted.
my mouth, and
Yeah.
I said, I can't believe you believe this horse shit. I said, this is absolutely stupid. And I
So
said, I'm going to my room.
were they trying to do like an intervention on you or something?
It was yes and no, but my mom knew that nothing. It's like I told my mom. I said, look, I get good grades in school. I don't get in trouble. All we do is playing D&D. And I said,
Yeah, what do you mean? Yeah.
and then I joke around and say, unless we're sacrificing a virgin or something, and then
Right.
my mom's like, oh, but I said,
Yeah.
Mom, this is horseshit. I cannot believe that you're You believe this? And I said,
Yeah.
I can't even believe that we're watching this stuff. This is
No, my
Dan
mom was.
Rather. Tonight we're going to talk
Yeah.
about Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, you know what kicked
Or
all
was
that
it
off?
Tom Brokaw? It was, yeah, it was some school shooting or some shit like that.
Well, what kicked the whole hysteria off was
The Demon
there was
Worshippers.
well there no there was a guy, and they this private eye wrote a book about it, and then they made a made for TV movie about it. There was a guy who
It was Tom
was
Hanks's first movie
yeah,
ever.
Tom Hanks was in Mazes and Monsters,
Hmm.
and this college kid disappeared, and they hired a private eye to find him. And the private eye theorized, because he found out that he played D&D, that it was all D&D related, and that he had become too mentally, confused. When in reality, the kid, was like suicidal to begin with, and there was other stuff going on. But they thought he had gone down in the tunnels, or and disappeared or something. Well, that started it, right? And
Oh
then
yeah,
and
it
then it got,
definitely did.
and it came out later. The kid, turned himself in and didn't have anything to do with D&D. But then to feed into it at the same time, you had the like the Ozzy Osbourne and the heavy metal, like, hey, this music makes people
Yeah,
kill themselves. It fed into all that, and
biting the bats, biting the head off the
yeah,
bats and shit.
it fed into all that. And there was like, this person put out a booklet, some lady linking all these suicides to D&D, even though there was no proof. And like when you research it later, you find out they can't even find a couple of these kids' names to have really existed. But
Mm-hmm.
there's that word, is it zeitgeist, where it's like a spirit of the times. And it just got all swept up. Like the 80s, to be a kid, was like the best of times and the worst of times. It was a really fun
It
decade.
was good, but we
Yeah,
had, censorship on albums. We could thank fucking Al Gore and his wife for that. And then we had Say No to Drugs with Nancy Reagan. And remember those stupid fucking commercials where this is your brain on drugs,
yeah,
and then
this
they
is your
take
brain
the
on
yeah
drugs.
the egg sizzling
Yeah,
or
and crack it
yeah
on
yeah
there.
come
Yeah,
on,
this
it's
is your
just fucking
brain crack. This is
stupid.
your brain on drugs. But
Yeah,
so anyway, my mom was like, ixnay on the ombre on the D&D.
yeah.
So what I did was,
I told him I wasn't going to stop playing. I said, "You're not going to stop me from playing."
well, at this point, I
I
was
was
like,
rude about it because I thought it
well,
was stupid.
I mean, it was like your whole social life at that
Yeah.
point. So
I was a good kid. I never got in trouble. I got good grades in school. It's like I told him. I said, I do my shit around here. I do my chores. I mow the grass. I said,
what's the
I'm
problem?
gonna keep
Yeah,
playing. I said, I'm not out smoking cigarettes at the bus stop in the morning like my brother is, or like he was with his fucking Yahoo friends. So,
right. You're just playing. Yeah, I mean, and
well,
there was a lot of demonizing going on. I think Bannock, I don't know, I'm mispronouncing. He said moral panics or
no,
fun. It
yeah,
was. It was a moral
yeah.
panic,
Hey, Panko.
and yeah, Tipper Gore. I think Radacious is talking. Yeah, Radacious, where he goes, I have to journey the
Yeah,
two towers. Yeah, that was like Tom Hanks literally said, I have to go
yeah,
to the two towers
yep,
in the movie. But yeah, my mom was like, no. Nah. But see, at that point, I was into role playing, but it didn't necessarily have to be D&D,
yeah,
right? Now, I was curious about D&D, and I remember like smuggling some books into the house to read them and stuff like that. But the other stuff, she was pretty much okay with. And I did get away with playing Middle Earth role playing, which is
nice. Yeah,
basically
Lord of the Rings.
D&D,
Yeah,
but it's Tolkien,
yeah, it's
right?
Tolkien. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So and Middle Earth role playing was a really cool
That was pretty
system.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, but I can remember like, hey, actually, I'm going to take it back. Before I played when I was 13, I think I did play regular D&D once or twice.
yeah,
Advanced D&D, I'd forgotten about that, but it was very like sneaking around playing it. But yeah, later I started playing like the basic and expert and AD&D, and I got way into it.
yeah.
So. And I just loved everything about it. I was one of those people that I would just think I wasn't like you and your friends playing it in class all day long, but I was
Oh,
always thinking about it, drawing stuff, thinking about stuff.
yeah.
Well, I love to buy
Because you didn't have
games.
anybody in your class to play it with you. That's
Yeah,
why
I
you didn't
totally
do
would have.
it,
Yeah,
or you would
I didn't
have.
have. I never really had a great. I mean, I had some friends that liked to play,
Yeah,
but growing up, like junior high and high school, I never had a hardcore gaming group. So a lot of my gaming was, I mean, I did get to play sometimes. Like I taught, hey, play this game with me, or my friends would. They were kind of casual D&D players,
Yeah.
and I would play with them. And every now and then, I'd get to play kind of a hardcore game. But I never had that ongoing, hey, we're getting together every week. But I love to buy role-playing games and just read the systems. I wanted to see how the math worked and all the
Yeah.
different systems work together. Uh, I
I
mean, I
was
can remember.
ignorant in that aspect. I was ignorant for a long time. If it did not say Dungeons and Dragons TSR on it, I thought it sucked. And we tried a couple games. I'll be honest. We tried Star Frontiers. That was by TSR.
It
We
was all
tried
right.
it. It was okay.
Yeah,
We also tried Talislantia. Talislantia was actually
I've heard of it, but I never
pretty
played it.
decent. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it's a more heavy Elvish game, but that was actually pretty good. And then we played Warhammer Blood Bowl. That was pretty good.
I never played that. I know that was a really popular game.
Yeah,
That's still a popular
yeah.
game,
We
Blood
played
Bowl.
Blood Bowl.
So
It was actually
yeah.
we played the board game version where you had to buy the miniatures and stuff,
hmm
and that's what we did. It was
Warhammer
fun.
is just huge. I got one of my guests a couple of months ago was we were talking about Warhammer. They run basically a Twitch channel dedicated. It's called Frontline Gaming, and they broadcast a lot of their
It's
games
the
and
rich
kind of
man's game.
what's that?
That's the rich man's game.
Yeah, no, yeah. The guy even said, I said, what's it cost? And he said, to get into it even, somewhat regularly, you're going to spend four, five,
Well,
$600.
there's two Warhammer games. There's Warhammer, and then there's Warhammer Fantasy. Now, Warhammer Fantasy isn't bad. Warhammer Fantasy is like your role playing game, but
Right,
then
RPG.
there's Warhammer Tactical Minis and shit, and that's where it's the rich man's game. But yeah, I think it's Warhammer 40K. I think it is with the miniatures and shit. So, but yeah, it can be super super expensive.
Yeah, oh no,
So
definitely. It looks fun though. I would love to play it, but I'm not going to invest that kind of money
yeah,
into it. But these guys that are running this Twitch channel, they have a store where they paint stuff for people and whatever, and they've got some amazing when they set up their
yeah,
boards. Let's kind of look at the chat here, see what people are saying. Skunk says he got away with playing Dragonlance because one of their creators was Mormon. I thought
nice.
Tracy Hickman and Weiss was her name, something Weiss, Laura Weiss. I thought they were both Mormon, but yeah, Tracy's definitely Mormon.
Yeah, she's
Uh,
running Pathfinder now, I think, right?
well, Tracy's actually a dude, and
Yeah,
his
yeah,
wife is
Tracy is.
Lauren.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Laura
Laura
Weiss. Yeah,
Hickman.
Laura
Yeah,
Hickman.
Margaret
Yeah,
Weiss.
Margaret Weiss.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah,
she's
she's
doing
running
Pathfinder
Pathfinder.
stuff.
Yeah, she's running
Yeah,
Pathfinder. Yeah, that's it.
she's doing Pathfinder, and in fact, Laura and Tracy Hickman
Mm-hmm.
did the original Dragon or Ravenloft module.
Ravenloft. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which was huge. Let's see what people are mentioning here. Shadowrun is a cool system. Not was is a cool. I love that the fantasy cyberpunk mashup of Shadowrun. The rule system. It was okay. I'm just not a big fan of. And this is my own personal preference. I like all the different 20-sider and 6-sider and 4-sider, and I think it's fun. I think it's part of the mystique and
Yeah.
and whatever. And like Shadowrun just uses 6-siders, but the system itself is fine. I like the setting. Radacious is talking about Iron Crown Enterprises. Yeah, Campaign Master, Arms and Weapons Master, Spell Master. Did you ever play any of that, Dave? It's really complicated rules, but it's really
Mm-mm.
cool. Yeah,
No.
it's a really elegant
The
system,
most
but it's
the most complicated that we got was Rollmaster. We played Roll, and believe me, Rollmaster is exactly what the name says. It is Rollmaster. Once you hit, from what I remember, when you hit something, you had to roll where you hit, what type of hit it was,
yeah,
how severe it was, and then the
yeah.
damage, and then was there any other hindering effects? I mean, it was just stupid. That
It's for
lasted like
people.
half a day.
If people like hardcore rule systems, they'll like Rollmaster.
Yeah.
But people who don't like that, I like both. Like I like D&D because D&D is not intended to be a simulator, right? It's a rule
No.
system that but you get into like GURPS and you get into like the Rollmaster and all that. They're trying to be more of a simulator, I don't know if
Fourth
that makes sense
edition's a
or
little
not.
bit more tactical. I mean, there's a lot
I would
more
love to play a fourth
tactical
edition.
things going on with fourth.
I never played. The fourth edition is the one D&D edition I never played.
It's good.
And I've heard nothing but good things about the tactical. For people who like combat, and I do, I love tactical turn-based combat. I've heard fourth edition is great.
Yeah.
I've never played it. I heard combat takes a while, but I've heard it's really good.
It's pretty good. Fantasy Grounds actually speeds it up a lot because Fantasy Grounds remembers all of your ongoing damage. It remembers all of your conditions, so that makes it nice. Fantasy Grounds on 4th edition. Fantasy Grounds was made for 4th edition. I mean, I believe that was the original. So? No, it was. That's what Doug was saying. Before he bought the company, back when Fantasy Grounds just had come out, the original creator actually made it for 4th edition. What's up, big dude?
That's my son Justice, everybody. He's about to go to bed.
Uh-oh.
So,
good night. Good night, future DM.
Yeah, he's my hobbit, my little half.
My son was about a couple of years. 2. Is he level 2? Nice.
Yeah, he's level 2.
Big kid for level 2, man.
Yeah, he's tall. I'm gonna be in trouble. I got to get my bluff in now because he's gonna like tower over me because he's in like 95th percentile on height every time he goes to the doctor. Yeah. So
when I took a couple Tolkien classes back in college when I was working on my undergraduate's degree, we could, for our final project, our final paper was we could do a final paper, or we could, dress up as one of our favorite characters. So everybody in the class, it was a class vote. Everybody voted to dress up. So we all dressed up, and we all brought in food, and somebody brought in lammas cake. Someone brought in like a halfling cobbler. I mean, it was awesome, man. All these,
that sounds fun.
Middle Earth recipes were created, and I dressed up like Treebeard. It was awesome. I did. I dressed up as Treebeard. I had to put this thing on out in the parking lot, and my son was helping me. My son was probably about 8 or 9 or so at this time, and he's a big kid. My son was like almost 6 foot tall at, like 9 years old. So here I got this kid on my shoulder and I carried my son in, which was dressed as a freaking hobbit with hairy feet. Beautiful. Yeah, and
did you go?
It was awesome. I made all kinds of grunts and stuff. It was awesome, and we had people were dressed up as hell. There's like, I think we had like 30 people in our class, and it was total geek fest. And it was the even though it had nothing to do with my major, it was the funnest classes that I ever took, and it was awesome.
Sounds like a good. I want to say, Radacious, awesome. Thanks for saying the good night to Justice, and Lynx. Lynx said, "Good-looking kid." It's actually, you wouldn't know this.
You got to look out for Lynx. He's a Roman Catholic priest. Shane.
Oh, okay.
He's a Roman Catholic priest. Be careful.
Okay. Well,
I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
Well, I've talked about it a little bit. I don't talk about it on my radio show or whatever. But I mean, I'm a Christian. I don't run around beating people over the head with it. But,
no, I was just joking around because of the Vatican. Moving priests around and stuff for kids and stuff. Never mind.
Yeah, I got you. I just got it. You're wrong, man.
My bad. Ooh.
Yeah, you were wrong.
Everybody got it now.
Yeah. Hey, Sheila, lock the door. Lock his bedroom door. No, but anyway. No. So I played. I was gonna say I was looking for my favorite.
So far over your head, Shane. That was like.
It took a second. I was like, I thought you were saying, "Oh, he's in the chat now. You gotta keep it clean." I thought that's what you were saying.
No.
I'm going to give you the best, and this was from Iron Crown Enterprises for Middle Earth role playing, but I think they had amazing fumble charts and amazing crit, and one of the worst fumbles you could do in Middle Earth role playing was you would stumble over an unseen imaginary deceased turtle, and then you were very confused and stunned for 3 rounds. So I love it's one of my favorite fumble of all time is you trip over a long dead imaginary. Yeah.
When I made up my fumble chart for 4th and 5th edition, I made up one that was, I believe, 75 to 77 on a percentile die. Was eke a unusual fluid gets accidentally gets into your eye. So that was
Ew.
weird. Yeah, some weird and mysterious fluid gets hits you in the eye.
Let's
Let's
see.
see what the chat
Links,
looks like.
yeah. Justice definitely gets his looks from Sheila. Um, he doesn't have a beard. He doesn't have a beard, so he didn't get his looks from me. He didn't pop out with a scraggly beard. Um, yeah, but yeah, so I played a lot of Middle Earth, and then just over the years, I played a lot of different role playing games. I played some Torg. I don't know if
I've
Paranoia was one of my favorites in high
I've
school.
heard
I
of
don't
all
know if
these. I've heard of them, but
Paranoia
I just
was
never played them.
Paranoia was like one of my favorite all-time role-playing games. It was just really, there's no other game like it. You're basically, it's in the post-apocalyptic future, and you live in a dome run by a computer,
Oh
and you've
wow,
never been outside because a nuclear war happened. Or no, I think all the computers think a nuclear war happened,
and it
so they
didn't. Huh?
locked everybody
Yeah,
down, and the computers are incredibly paranoid, and
the Truman
you're
Show.
yeah, it's kind of like that, and it's like you actually have death is so common that you start with like 6 clones because it's assumed that the computer is going to kill you or something tragic is going to happen or
Oh
something
wow.
like that. I've had so much fun playing that game. I want to play. In fact, I'm working with Steve Jackson Games, the representative here in Arkansas. I want to play GURPS. I've
Yeah.
never played GURPS, and I've always wanted to play GURPS.
We actually tried GURPS back in the day. That was one other game we tried, and it was too. I want to say it wasn't structured enough from what I remember about the
Oh,
first.
really?
Yeah, about the first game. But I know that GURPS is on like fourth or fifth edition now. So,
Yeah,
but
they're
I
on
heard,
fourth.
yeah, I
Yeah,
heard GURPS is really good now, and what a lot of people say that it is. It's used for anything. There's GURPS fantasy, there's GURPS
right.
science fiction, GURPS superheroes. It's just like Savage Worlds. But, between that I've talked to people that have played both, between Savage Worlds and GURPS, all of them prefer Savage Worlds because it's just more fast. It seems like over the years in editions, people have been saying that GURPS are trying to get too technical with things, whereas Savage Worlds doesn't, and it's pretty straightforward. And I love Savage Worlds. I've played Savage Worlds, so it's a really good system.
Yeah, from what I understand of GURPS, and somebody's asking in the chat, GURPS stands for Generic
G
Universal Role
U
Playing
R P
System.
S. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it stands for, and it's made for two reasons. One, any setting that you want to have,
Yep.
fantasy, cyberpunk, horror, doesn't matter, Old West, whatever.
The
That's
core
why it's
rules
generic,
are the same.
universal.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it's also very the way I had the guys explain it to me last week was there's a rule for anything, any situation that may come up. So if that's going to turn some people off because there's so many rules,
Hmm.
right? I like I like rules heavy and I like rules light.
Yeah.
So uh, other game, I'd love to play Numenera or the Cipher system in
Oh, I
general.
can't wait. Yep.
Yeah, I've never had a chance. I remember you and I talked about maybe getting a game going to that. Um, I haven't played Savage Worlds, but I was there, Dave. I was there the night Miss Betty became Monster Chow or Zombie Chow. I'll never forget when Miss Betty
Yep.
became zombie cookies.
Yep.
So it seemed like if I remember
It's
right,
ruthless. It
that
can.
game can get lethal really quick,
It
right?
can. It can when you're rolling damage. When you roll damage, you're supposed to roll against a toughness number. Now, in Savage Worlds, your dice can explode. So
That's
when your
yeah,
dice explodes, you roll it again. And if you for those zombies, I was rolling a d6 for damage. Well, the first one rolled, it was a 6.
yeah,
It
yeah.
re-rolled automatically. It rolled another 6. Then it rolled again. I think it rolled a total of 3 6s, and then it stopped with a 5. So that was what, 23 damage or something like that. And
Yeah,
poor
I
Miss
remember you were
Betty,
like, ooh, yeah,
yeah, she only had like a 7 or 8 toughness. So once you go over your toughness, you're taking wounds, for
right.
every 2 points over that, and that's about to a maximum of 15. but she took 23, so that's an automatic death. But
Yeah, she was a zombie chow.
that's why it's called Savage Worlds, because sometimes it can work out like that. If you get shot by a gun, chances are you're going to get effed up. And not every shot is a kill, but there are some crit shots that are just going to kill you. Boom, you
Well,
got hit for 23 points. Guess what? Your head just got blown off by a
well,
shotgun. So, I
and
mean,
see,
that's
I have
just
a
the way it
problem with
is.
that. I have no problem with lethality, in a role playing game.
Yeah.
These days there's much more of a storytelling and
Hmm.
focus, and I'm like, sorry, I mean, old school D&D,
It was
you could
ruthless.
first level character could die real easy. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a bummer, but you know what? When you made it to those higher levels, you felt really good about
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and like a magic user, you could literally start the game at like 2 hit points.
My,
And
my friend Franklin did. My friend Franklin at level 20, high 20s, he had like 40 hit points.
yep,
So anytime we took any kind of massive amount of damage, he was down. So that's
right.
why when I was talking about he had been rezzed multiple times,
He kept getting.
that's because he only had 40. He had 50 hit points at one time, and then it just kept going down and down and
Yeah, his
down.
con kept
No,
going down.
I think he
Yeah,
had like 30 points because after level 10, then you only get like 2 a level and stuff. So he had a low amount of hit points to begin with. So when you die, you're losing con, so you're innately automatically losing
right.
hit points. So
Yeah, I
sucks.
think there should be real consequences
Yeah.
to make the game more exciting. To be honest,
Yeah.
I understand there's some people like they want more of a storytelling type game that death is not as common. There's it's subjective. There's no right or wrong here, but I mean I cut my teeth on. I don't
Yeah.
care if you spend an hour putting that character together.
Yeah.
It's dead,
We put
and you're like,
multiple characters together, especially when we would do a weekend Tomb of Horror speed run. We all knew what was in Tomb of Horrors. We all knew what the Magic Mouth did. We all know what each room did. But we would make about, depending on how hardcore it was going to be, we were going to make level 2. We made level 2 characters. We made a bunch of them. That's what we did during the week. And then when Friday came around, we had like 8, 10 characters,
let's see how
and
quick.
whoever was out of characters first lost. And
Yeah,
then they
and see
get
that's sweet.
and then they
Yeah,
get to start helping the GM, and then it was just fun. It was just it was awesome. Those were good times. But
yeah.
Rad says that their GURPS has tables for randomly
Randomly choosing tables. No,
Yeah.
and see, there's a part of me that likes that kind of. I
That
love.
sounds like Rollmaster. That's
Yeah, I mean,
Rollmaster, man.
I don't have to have it, but I don't mind it if it's there. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't want a lot of rules, and that's fine. See, like I said, I used to buy game systems and just read how they worked. So
Yeah.
I love seeing how the rules connect together and all the different stuff. Like I remember when I bought Middle Earth Role Playing, and their armor system, which they had, like Middle Earth Role Playing was basically Rollmaster Light, right? They were both
Okay.
from ICE, and Middle Earth, which was more complicated than D&D, was not as complicated as Rollmaster,
Yeah.
but it had some of the same spell system and some of the same fumbles and crits. But their armor system didn't make you easier or harder to hit. It just absorbed damage.
Yeah.
And that was like, what?
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, and I couldn't wait
Mhm.
to see that in action.
That's
You know?
Fantasy
Yeah.
Age, Dragon Age.
Oh, and
Yeah.
another game that I used to love to play was DC Heroes, the Mayfair one from the 80s. I really liked that system. I don't know if anybody here ever played
I
it,
remember
but
it.
it had this exponential system and the way they explained it was this is how Superman and Batman can be in the same game system without like Superman having like a strength of 3,000 and Batman having like a strength of 10. It was this really weird mathematical exponential increase. Like every level was a double of the level before it, right?
Nice.
So, and that starts adding up pretty quick. So,
Yeah.
I really liked that system a lot. So,
Awesome, man.
let's see what people are.
You guys got any
saying.
questions for Shane, guys? You guys have any? Holy crap! It's already 10:30. Time flies when
Yeah.
you're having fun, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, since this is a DM workshop, anybody got any rules or
Yeah.
DM questions?
Yeah, Rad says that dying there should be a penalty. And yeah, and he does make a good point. 5e is very difficult to die if you're level, unless you're level 1, and then it's pretty easy to die. But once you hit level 2, it's a lot harder. I just feel that. And guys, I love D&D 5e. You guys know I do. I've done this for 3 years playing 5e from next to 5e, but the